So today we're going to learn about connotations and denotations in writing and in word choice. This may be something that you've not ever heard of before, so please make sure that you take some notes in your 5-subject notebook. This will be underneath the reading section, would be a great place to put this, or you can put it under writing as well. So let's first talk about what is connotation versus denotation. And it's pretty simple, actually. It's just some big words for some pretty simple ideas. So, what we know is that denotation is the actual definition of a word. So, when you come up and ask me, what's this word mean? That's what you're asking. What is its denotation? You've been looking up the denotation of words for many, many years now. So congratulations, you already know what it is. You probably just didn't know the actual term for it. But connotation is different. You may have noticed that some words generate emotions for you. In that case, you're reacting to a word's connotative meaning. Connotation is the emotion that a word generates in addition to the actual meaning. So let's take a look at this. If we have a house, you know the denotation, the actual definition of it is a building in which someone lives. And that means it's pretty neutral in its connotation. You don't have any emotion attached to the word house. But if I said home, or we looked at the word home, we might know that it is a place of warmth, comfort, and positive affection. And so the connotation for it is positive. But if I also said, instead of the word house, I said the word shanty, you would think of a small, crudely built shack. And that connotation is actually negative. So we started out with house being neutral. It's a place where someone lives. Home, the denotation of it is a warmth place where there's positive affection and comfort, so it gives us a positive feeling. And a shanty, which is also another word for a house, is a small, crudely built shack. And that negative connotation is something that kind of makes us think of something that we wouldn't want to live in. So let's take a look at some of these other words. And we might look at them and think about the idea that if we looked at the word gaze, for example, it's kind of like the same word as stare, but they both have the same kind of meaning. But if you said gaze, you might think more positively than stare. Like if you were staring at someone, it might not be as positive as if you're gazing at someone. Okay? So let's take a look at the word cheap. Now, when we think of cheap, we usually think of something that isn't made very well or it breaks very easily. But versus the word inexpensive just means it didn't cost very much. Okay? So let's take a look at the word aggressive. Aggressive means someone who is willing to go out and try really hard, but sometimes if we think about the word pushy, it's kind of the same meaning as aggressive if we looked it up in the dictionary. But pushy is someone that you probably don't want to hang around with because they're always trying to get you to do whatever they want. Okay? So let's skip sad and glum and come down here to chef and cook. When we think about the chef, that's usually someone that we think of as working in a really expensive restaurant, but a cook could be someone who works at McDonald's. That's a really good example. How about smile and smirk? If someone smiles at you, you know that that's a pretty positive thing. But if they smirk at you, sometimes that is not necessarily a positive thing and can actually be reflecting their true emotion, which may not be very positive. Then let's take a look at plain and natural. Plain just means it's probably boring. And this is how sometimes people use these words to help sell products. So if you think about plain yogurt, that sounds kind of boring, but natural yogurt sounds like something you might actually eat because it sounds like it's going to be better for you than just plain yogurt. Okay, so let's take a look over here at slender versus skinny. Slender usually means someone who, they both kind of have the same meaning. They're both people who are thin. But slender usually is a better word to say if you're talking about someone than they're skinny, because skinny sometimes can be a negative one. All right, so these are some other words here. This one, especially cop versus officer. Officer shows a little more respect, cop does not. And then if we go outside and the weather is refreshing, that means it's going to feel nice and cool. But outside, if it's chilly, that means a completely different idea. And that's all we're going to talk about today. So just remember, it's not too hard. Just remember, denotation is something as when you give the actual definition of the word. But connotation is when you start to attach some kind of emotion to the word to help your reader better understand what you're talking about. You may stop the video now.